Hello everyone, this is Spring Porter with Spring Solutions LLC. In today's video, I thought it would be a good idea to go over the difference between service of process and the certificate of service because they're not the same. I had a subscriber reach out to me asking about the certificate of service and kind of what is needed on there. I think it would be a good idea to just talk about the legal definition of it and the purpose of both of these particular things. Please note that I am not an attorney. This is not indicated as legal advice. This is just sort of a layman's definition of service of process and certificate of service. These topics can be courses in a law class or whole chapters on service of process, whole courses taught on these particular things. So I'm only going to be touching the surface here as it pertains to unclaimed funds in bankruptcy. All right. So when it comes to unclaimed funds in bankruptcy, you're not really dealing with the service of process. You're dealing with more of the certificate of service. Okay. So the first thing is the service of process. And one of the definitions is a term for the delivery of a summons, a writ of subpoena to the opposing party in a lawsuit. And that I got that definition from the lawdictionary.org. Another definition, very simple. Service of process is the method employed by the parties in a lawsuit to formally deliver papers such as the complaint, an answer, and motion papers on the other parties and the court. All right. So simply put, a service of process establishes the jurisdiction. It sort of introduces the lawsuit to the defendant. We all see movies where, there's a guy in a suit or, a random person and he has this package and he says, "Are you so and so? You've been served." Well, that's a process server. They have to be appointed by the court to deliver these papers like this. Another way that someone can be served is by the sheriff's department. For child support papers, for foreclosures, for divorce papers, for just any kind of lawsuit proceeding needs to be served on the defendant. And there are times where things can be served by publication, depending on the type of lawsuit, depending on, where you live and your jurisdiction. Some things can also be served by certified mail. It really just depends on what court you're dealing with, which venue. Is it a superior court issue? Is it a state court issue? What kind of case is it will determine what you're actually allowed to do. And the process on how long it takes for something to be served by publication is sort of state and jurisdiction specific. So again, service of process is when you're initiating a lawsuit. That has to be served by one of these down here. Process server, sheriff's department, publication, or certified mail. Okay? Now, where you're dealing with unclaimed funds for bankruptcy, you're going to see the certificate of service. This form is in your instruction packet, and it is needed because it certifies to the court that documents were mailed or hand delivered to a party in a case. And I got this definition from a courtstate.maryland U.S. court website. So this is a Maryland state court definition of a certificate of service. And simply put, when you're filling out a certificate of service, which is just one form, you've already established jurisdiction. Jurisdiction was already established by the person who filed in the petition. So in this situation, we're dealing with bankruptcy cases. The voluntary petition was already filed by the debtor's attorney. So you're not having to go to a process server or a sheriff's department to serve unclaimed fund paperwork. That has already been established. You're only filling out the certificate of service because it just says that you're mailing something to the parties. That's all that you're doing. So you don't have to come out of pocket and pay a process server. You don't have to pay a sheriff's fee. This is just a proceeding that is within the bankruptcy case, if that makes sense. So let's move forward with, this is certificate of service. This is what it looks like. This is specific to the District of Maryland. These forms are in every district for the bankruptcy court. You can see what form they look like. They are usually, it has this information in here. It has the heading. So you plug it in with the debtor's name, case number, chapter. And The important thing with this is you have to mail the documents the same date that you are putting on the certificate of service. So if you're mailing it today, you have to have today's date. You can't, um, mail it in 2 weeks and then you put today's date on it. That's not how it works. It has to be sort of postmarked, in the mail on the same date. And filling this in is, again, formula writing. Um, you need to make sure that the claimant's information is on here. Right here, it already has who it goes to. This is going to the U.S. Attorney's District of Maryland, and it has their address already listed on here. There are some districts and jurisdictions that do not have that information listed here, but it may be in the instruction packet. That's why I'm always doing videos showing you where to find the instructions, because that information is already there. You need to plug in all of these blanks here. So the person that is filing the application for unclaimed funds needs to be the person that is filing or signing this certificate of service, and it has to be notarized, right? So two things: certificate of service has to have the date. Make sure the date that you're mailing it is the date that goes on the certificate of service. Make sure you sign it, and make sure, three, that whoever it goes to, it needs to be spelled out here. It needs to go to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Some jurisdictions, it has to go to the U.S. Trustee's Office. You need to make sure you read your instruction packets. I can't stress that enough. That's why a lot of my videos now are going to different jurisdictions, and I show you, in black and white, this is your instruction packet. Everything you know is in that packet. If it's not, you reach out to the clerk's office, right? So this is very simply what a certificate of service is. It just says that you mailed these documents to this party on this date. That's all that means, right? So I hope that this is helpful to you, because again, it is a difference. But again, for the purposes of bankruptcy, you're not having to do the service of process. You're not initiating a whole lawsuit. So you don't have to go for a process server or sheriff's department, okay? You are only putting things in the mail. Now, there are on occasion where a certificate of service, depending on, let's say you are doing a divorce and you have a lot of pleadings or discovery, you may do a certificate of service, and instead of mail, it may be sent electronically, right? If it's okay for that specific jurisdiction. But for the purposes of bankruptcy, because we are not attorneys, everything is usually going to have to be sent by mail, okay? So make sure it will say, see, in the certificate of service, it will say via first class mail. It should usually say that because you're putting everything in the mail. And it has to be sent, the original documents need to be sent to the clerk's office or the financial administrator, whoever you're sending it to. Make sure their address is listed here clearly. In the event that this is not sent, it's not filled in properly, you are going to get a deficiency notice from the court, and you're going to have so many days to correct your certificate of service. So your application for unclaimed funds can be denied for lack of service or lack of certificate of service, just so you know. So you're going to have a chance, if you mess up, to correct the situation. But you want to make sure that you fix this prior to mailing it. So again, instruction packet, instruction packet, instruction packet. Know your local rules, and also contact the financial administrator or the clerk if that is who is, overseeing this process. Okay? So I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.